AI is the next innovation and the next threat. It's the next life-changing technology, and it will be both good and bad for a variety of trades. Since the 1800s, we've seen emerging technologies alter society itself, from the invention of the camera to the prevalence of television and the internet. We've experienced more change in the last 200 years than we have in all the other centuries combined. Change has been good in the long run, with some caveats, but each new technology has brought disruption, and AI will be no different. One of the biggest threats any invention brings is to jobs. In fact, the recent Hollywood writers' strike was due, in large part, to the refusal of companies like Netflix to leave AI out of their writing process. Read any 1800s book from the Napoleonic era, and you'll see workers tearing apart the machines that have replaced them. In short, what the writers and actors have attempted to do over the past year. In earlier times, workers were simply laid off, without any chance to strike. But the strikes we've just seen were preemptive, an argument against potential threats in the future. Of course, what makes AI different is not that it's replacing people, but artists specifically. Artists have always been both frowned upon and exalted. Those who make it are treated as celebrities, as great thinkers who will reveal human nature for all time. Artists who don't succeed, on the other hand, are viewed as lazy. Even if they work 16 hours a day at their craft, they're labeled as selfish when compared with those working a real job, simply because the creation of art is viewed as an enjoyable process. Speaking as a YouTuber and writer, I can say that being creative is more enjoyable than anything I've ever done. But it would be a mistake to say that being a creator is easy. Some YouTubers put in 12+ hours a day editing. And when it comes to writing, there's more to it than just telling a story. There's the editing that comes after, the marketing, and the need to save money if you're planning to self-publish. There are also social media accounts and mailing lists to maintain, and people like editors and cover designers to be consulted and hired. Whatever your opinion of artists or creatives, most people can agree that art itself has value. Art has meaning, and art has power. The pen is mightier than the sword, or so the saying goes. And much of the changes we've had for the better came as a result of great books, like those by Charles Dickens, that exposed the pitfalls of progress and how technology was being used to the detriment of humanity overall. The emergence of machinery and factories increased child labor, or else replaced labor altogether, taking away jobs from those who needed them. Though we abolished child labor, thanks to writers like Dickens, the internet was the latest technology to both help and harm humanity, with children again being exploited for money, being forced to perform for TikTok or YouTube. All this to say that, while technology has its uses, it's also, without the appropriate precautions, easily abused, and AI is no exception. Many of the jobs machines replaced were those in the long run which we'd rather not do. Washing machines, while they put washerwomen out of work, also removed a mindless chore from households, enabling people to spend their free time on more meaningful tasks. Art, whether that's drawing, painting, or writing, falls under this category, being a common hobby for many, which leaves us with an important question. If robots can now do the tasks which are meaningful, what's left for people to do? If we reach a point where robots can write poetry, is there any point to people existing? I don't want to get too grim, but I have to be honest. While we're a long way off from robots being able to replace people, AI is getting better all the time. And I can't say I want to live in a world where artists have no place. Creation gives meaning to life, not only for those who engage with art, but for those who create it. Even writing the script for this video gives me meaning, though there are already AI programs which promise to churn out serviceable articles. For my part, I have mixed feelings about AI. In thinking over the effect it could have, I can only conclude it's both good and bad, and the outcome we face because of it will stem from how humans harness it. For writers specifically, AI is also a mixed bag. While it could threaten writing itself, if not used responsibly, it could also aid writers. It could create equality for writers with less access to resources, as well as take over the administrative tasks most creatives would rather not think of. As such, I'll cover first the uses AI could have for writers, and then I'll list the potential problems. Before we dive in though, I'm Riley and this is Otherworldly Fiction. On this channel, I rant about books, discuss characters and lore, share my bookish opinions, and offer the occasional writing advice. If any of that sounds like your cup of tea, hit the subscribe button. AI is both good and bad for writers, and here's why. AI isn't all bad, if used properly. Writers, especially self-published writers, face their own struggles, and AI could provide relief in some cases, be it the writing itself, or management of social media, the generation of ideas, or marketing. There are several ways AI could help. Use number 1, aesthetic videos. Anyone who spent enough time on social media will have heard of aesthetic videos. Aesthetics, in short, represent a certain style or look. If you hear someone describe something as having a Tim Burton aesthetic, then you know they're describing a very specific appearance. For authors and book enthusiasts, aesthetic videos are especially helpful, as they can be used to create a mood, either around a book you've read and want to share, or a book you've written. Composed of a series of images, aesthetic videos can tell potential readers about a story's mood and tone, creating an atmosphere that will excite the right reader. Some aesthetic videos are lighthearted and bright, conveying a sense of new love and playfulness through silhouetted couples, sunsets, and flower bouquets. Others, conversely, are moody, with dreary blue tones and washed-out figures in old-fashioned dresses. An aesthetic video can give readers a time, a place, and a person, usually in a way that's more entertaining than listening to the writer explain everything. However, people have run into trouble when creating aesthetic videos or slideshows. The biggest issue comes down to copyright. People have been threatened with fines, even court battles, because they used someone else's picture in a 30-second video. Moreover, some images are difficult to find. Even if you have access to Canva or free websites like Pixabay, finding a specific image can be difficult. Canva, for its part, has come out with its own AI program, and I can't pretend I'm not impressed with what it can do. While I'll always advocate for hiring an artist for things like book covers and illustrations, I'm not against AI as a marketing tool. If you're someone who needs to make book trailers, especially on a daily basis for something like BookTok, hiring an artist for every piece isn't financially practical. Most of us don't have the time or the talent to produce so much art either, especially for an image that will only be seen for half a second. When it comes to creating shorts for BookTok, to convey a mood or advertise your work, such pictures are invaluable. Some of the images I generated included blue butterflies flying over blue roses with palm trees in the background, or eyes watching from the walls, and shadowy figures. Imagery that couldn't be easily found, but which is specific to my writing. For independent screenwriters, AI could also be useful for creating what is known as a lookbook, a series of pictures or vague images which convey mood while complementing a film pitch. Films have a strong aesthetic. Again, just look at Tim Burton's films. Movies have a distinct look, feel, and tone, which the right images can help to show to a considering producer. Use number 2, outlining and planning. A second use writers have for AI is its ability to plan. While AI can't and shouldn't think for us, it can help us to organize our thoughts. People have used it to plan their stories or blog articles. By typing in a topic and mentioning a few things you'd like to cover, some AI programs can spit out an outline for you. Some AI programs will also create a rough draft of sorts, either of a scene or a blog, though a talented writer will still be needed to edit what's there and rewrite the bulk. AI can't replace a writer, but it can help us to spitball, as well as take care of the more tedious aspects of the creation process. Personally, I still prefer to plan out my own work. All of my ideas at this point in time are my own. Well, vidIQ, for example, has an AI program that can generate YouTube ideas with promises from YouTube to do the same. Many creators have excelled without such technologies, making them more helpful than necessary. That said, for some creators, especially those struggling to come up with ideas, AI can give them something to jump off from, even if it can't yet do the work itself. Use number 3, faster creation. With AI that can spit out outlines and generate topics, the creation process can be sped up. Some writers might spend hours, even weeks, outlining a story, but AI, in addition to the templates provided by the likes of Save the Cat, can simplify the planning process. There are programs which purport to aid in scene creation. Writers can simply type in a prompt with some details as to what should happen, and AI will spit out a short scene. Now, this is where I have the most mixed feelings. For the most part, AI can't actually write your book for you. Instead, what it can do is give you an idea of what you should write, or how your scene could actually play out. I still prefer to feel out scenes myself, but for those struggling with writer's block or who are pantsers, such a trick could unlock your creativity. Plus, AI, as it currently stands, is reliant on human imagination. In order to write a scene, AI still requires a human to come up with the plot and atmosphere of the scene. You, as the creator, still have to have some idea of your story. Moreover, once AI has shown you a glimpse of what your story might look like, you still have to write it. Use number 4, idea generation. One of the most important parts of the creation process is the generation of ideas, something many writers and creators generally struggle with. While ideas are a dime a dozen, not easy to sell on their own, they're still vital. As the initial sparks behind most creations, writers prize them. For most of us, it wasn't a great theme that prompted us to write. Instead, it was probably a vague idea, like a 2-minute scene, a strange character, or a unique concept that made us eager to start a book. While it's better to have your own ideas, AI can get you thinking, especially when the results it produces are unexpected. Inspiration can come from any quarter, from a piece of art, a favorite song, or a character from a book you love. Though you might not use the idea AI comes up with, it could trigger an idea of your own. Plus, if you do like an idea AI comes up with, you can still alter it and make it your own. An AI-generated scene might make you think of something you wouldn't have otherwise. For example, if AI introduces a spooky tree or mist into a paragraph, you might choose to incorporate such imagery into your own work. You might even focus on the tree itself, crafting a short story centered around a demonic tree, because of the image that was placed in your head. On a more literal level, there are AI writing prompts which can push you if you're stuck. Give 50 writers a prompt, AI generated or otherwise, and they'll all come up with something different, because the stories themselves will still be based on our own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. When used not to write for you, but simply to get you thinking, AI can be a useful way to come up with ideas if you're stuck, or to get you thinking outside the box even if you're not. The fifth reason AI could be useful is that it's an equalizer. Now, and even more so in the future, AI could help writers in another respect, by acting as an equalizer. For all its problems, the internet was good for one thing, and that was its ability to offer an even playing field for everyone who wanted to make a statement or become famous despite a lack of money. The internet has allowed me, for example, to share these videos with you, for little to no cost, and platforms like YouTube and Wattpad make it possible to share all manner of work, potentially with thousands, should what you create speak to people. The only barrier is the work itself, and whether or not it resonates with people. AI, likewise, could level the playing field, providing tools and assistance which would have been previously unaffordable to many writers, in particular those who plan to self-publish. We already have AI which is capable of writing scenes, generating ideas, and proofreading. These technologies aren't perfect, but they'll only improve with time. There are even programs coming out which can offer suggestions for your story, indicating spots where the action is flagging or where subplots have occurred. Use number 6, free artwork. The last use AI has is easily the most contentious. Already, the artwork provided by AI has gotten good. It can't replace true art, but it's easy to mistake for something a human has done if you don't spend too long looking at it. And it's getting better with every month that passes. Not even 2 years ago, you had artwork which was interesting but hideous. Now, there are AI programs coming out for authors specifically, promising endless artwork for writers to use, on their websites, for their marketing, or even as their covers. Now, this is controversial because artists and cover designers deserve to be paid for their work. Being an artist is hard enough, but taking on the odd job to design a cover can help creators pay their bills until their own work takes off. At the same time, cover design can be prohibitively expensive, especially if you plan to publish multiple books. There are countless self-published books that have been overlooked, all because they had shitty covers. Lacking the funds to hire an artist and unable to draw themselves, many writers were forced to use everything from Microsoft Paint to their own shoddy drawings to represent their work. For such writers who can't afford an artist, AI will change everything. Able to get beautiful imagery, they'll finally be able to produce covers that better convey the quality of their work, leading to many more writers being discovered who wouldn't have been given a chance before. Still, all this comes with a caveat. While I'd use AI for marketing purposes, I still plan to hire an artist of some kind to handle my cover. Websites like Tumblr offer comparatively affordable designs for creators. However, where $300 is too much, there's also the option of commissioning your own pieces from artists on Fiverr or DeviantArt. Worst case scenario, I'll hire someone to create a specific image and then handle the typography on my own, since I have some idea of graphic design. For those who can't afford decent artwork, AI will be an equalizer for lower income writers who plan to self-publish. However, when it comes to big publishers and established names, it's my belief cover artists should always be hired, something the industry is already fighting over. This brings us to the problems AI represents. While it can be used as a tool, even by writers, it's not without its problems. The threat it presents to writing and the industries writers rely on and work with is not to be overlooked. And here I will go over 6 reasons why AI could be bad for writers if precautions aren't taken. Problem number 1, paying cover artists. Returning to the topic of free artwork, we have the problem of cover artists losing work. Up-and-coming artists, in order to make ends meet, have always had many choices when it comes to side income, cover design foremost among them. Indeed, art niches of all kinds are being threatened, from making repeat patterns for blankets to stationery design. Artists risk losing work from all quarters, and cover design is no exception. If a company can generate the images they need with a written prompt, why would they pay an artist? In fact, cover design is something many writers do to make extra money. Mandy Lin is an example of this because, in addition to writing, she runs a YouTube channel, designs stickers and planners, and offers cover design services. Many writers can draw as well as write, making cover design a perfect second job. And our knowledge of genres and the market also makes many of us suited to this. Personally, I can understand the need for a self-published writer to use AI for their cover. Covers can be as much as $500, and even services like Mibble Art might demand a few hundred for something more personal. For some writers, even scraping up $100 to pay an artist independently can be impossible, especially if they have more important expenses like food, rent, or children. That said, I think it's wrong for big publishing companies, or anyone who can afford it, to use AI if they can afford a designer. Even with my limited means, I could contact someone on DeviantArt. As for typography, I could either do it myself with the use of Canva, or hire a cousin of mine. Chances are you probably know an artist who would be willing to help you if all else fails. All in all, there's no excuse, in my opinion, for a successful publisher to deny jobs to artists if they can afford them. Technology will advance, whether we like it or not, but the loss of human art would, I think, mean losing something of ourselves. Worse, it's not just money artists are losing, but fame. Some artists make a name for themselves designing for a specific writer or series. By becoming celebrated for their work as an illustrator, they can then pave the way for their own work to be accepted. To make my point, we have a book illustrator to thank for our idea of Santa Claus. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas says nothing about Santa wearing a red coat, but artist depictions of him wearing red have become cemented in our heads. Pauline Baynes is known for the artwork she provided for Tolkien, in addition to Tolkien's own illustrations. And what of the artwork featured on early fantasy novels? Whether it's the lesser-known Elric saga or Lord of the Rings, you'll find dozens of examples of gorgeous and unique artwork which transcends genre or style. Art has its genres to an extent, like Impressionism or Realism, but an artist's style can't be replicated, and creators should be known for their talent, especially since AI had to draw from human art to learn in the first place. Now, this might not affect writers directly, but it does affect us as far as our respect for our fellow creators go. Creating a book, while a solitary process to begin, becomes a collaborative one in the long run, and cover artists have always been a respected part of that process. As a writer who self-publishes, I look forward to seeing what an artist will come up with, and AI still isn't capable of creating some of the specific images I have in mind. Having artwork on your book you can be proud of is half the fun. Plus, I also enjoy drawing, so I appreciate what goes into creating an image everyone can enjoy. Problem number 3 is the loss of creativity and talent. In the event that AI does become good enough to write books, we'll lose something irreplaceable: creativity and talent. Creativity is something that's in all of us, being one of the things that makes us human. When nurtured, creativity becomes talent, and with talent, we can take pride in our work and move others. AI might be capable of creating paragraphs or pictures that are polished on a technical level, but AI can never feel as we do. For AI, the pictures it creates don't have any actual meaning. That all comes from the people who imagine such pictures in the first place. However, while any meaning an AI piece might have comes from me, an AI can't know how I think. Therefore, it will never complete a picture for me the way I or another human being would. If I ask an AI to write a scene in my book for me, it won't make the same choices, because it will lack context. It won't, for example, have a character tear up over a certain event, because it will neither understand that character or why a specific plot twist would be upsetting to anyone, let alone that character. In any given scene, a character might find an incriminating letter and break down, but an AI will never be able to capture the small details. While it might guess that the letter represents bad news, such as a death or an affair, it won't explore the character's feelings, or their memories of the person mentioned in the letter. As such, the day AI can write books is the day we will lose human feelings or meaning, because if AI ever could feel, then our existence would be pointless. However, as it stands, AI can't feel. Instead, when AI produces anything that appears decent, it does so because of what humans have already produced. AI has to study human writing to teach itself, and while humans have to study other humans to improve their writing, we nevertheless bring something of ourselves to our work as well. Therefore, AI can never be original, because it must copy what came before. Any books that AI manages to write will be derivative, and likely cliché. Sadly, there are people who love cliché stories. Just look at Hallmark. As such, AI-produced books aren't an impossibility. There will be people who read them, and even enjoy them, and the results will be a glut of soulless books with which legitimate authors will be expected to compete. Many companies are implementing rules that publishers or creators indicate when they are using AI, but it's still a slippery slope. While there are those who are against AI in any form, there will still be plenty of readers content to read books written by it, if they're packaged beautifully and marketed well. Lacking originality, these books will never compete with those written by humans, at least not on an artistic level. However, many could be entertaining in the way Hallmark is, providing mindless drama and loaded cliches. Worse, such books will be the work of days, leaving writers who choose to write from scratch scrambling to catch up. There's already a pressure on self-published writers to produce as many as 4 books a year, and competition from robots who could write that in a month could make this worse. The 5th problem with AI, then, is that it lacks meaning. With AI copying what came before, we end up with books that are ultimately meaningless. For some readers, such works won't be good enough, Many will demand a human touch and expect a certain level of quality. That said, there have been arguments made that literary talent has already fallen off. This is more subjective, but there are readers who struggle to read modern books, finding older books, including classics, to be better written. And in earlier days, it's worth noting that there was more attention given to prose and detail. Even 20 years ago, books could be longer and richer because readers had longer attention spans. The truth is, it would be a lot harder now for a writer to publish something like Lord of the Rings. This isn't to say it was easy in Tolkien's time, as what Tolkien did was incredibly original when he first released the books, giving birth to the fantasy genre as we know it. But few would have the patience for a book written in his style. Characters like the iconic Tom Bombadil would be cut because he doesn't move the plot forward, and all of the descriptions, songs, and subplots would be deleted for being extraneous, even though it's those same elements that make the story so lifelike, allowing readers to inhabit the world. I'm not going to say definitively that writing quality has lessened, since many aspects of storytelling have also improved in their way, and that's a debate for another time. But there's something to be said for readers having lowered standards. As I said before, this wouldn't be all readers, but I have felt sometimes that the books we have now lack a certain richness or depth. I've loved many new books, but have returned repeatedly to classic literature when I wanted a story that wasn't afraid to take its time and be more detailed. There are books being published now that wouldn't have made the cut 20 years ago, which has led many readers to conclude that standards are being lowered by both publishers and readers, and should this trend continue, it's not inconceivable that there would be readers happy with AI-generated titles. If people are already happy with films from Lifetime and Hallmark, to say nothing of the mindless books people subscribe to online, then certainly there would be those who would read something written by a robot. The ultimate consequence of AI is a further lowering of art's value. Even where artists could find work, AI is taking it away. AI is already being used to make book covers, indicating a lack of value for artists in the first place. The fact is, admired as art is, people take it for granted. Nobody appreciates the talent or work that goes into creating, and many feel that art should be free. Even creators are sucked into this narrative. Authors are encouraged to give away their work online. In order to gain email subscribers, we're told to give away our first books for free, even if we sunk $2,000 into the book and hundreds of hours. People associate money with value. Therefore, if something doesn't cost money, it doesn't have value. You see this with YouTube, as it's a given that creators work for free before they're given a penny. I've made 100 plus videos on this channel without earning so much as $1, and I've accepted that this is the norm. As a creative of any kind, we're told that we must prove ourselves. Until then, regardless of our talent or efforts, we shouldn't expect anything for our hard work, except the pleasure of the work itself. Society's view of the artist is a toxic one, like a one-sided relationship where one partner takes and never gives. And even artists have accepted this, because, right or wrong, it's the way things are. Who cares if YouTubers put hundreds of hours into their work? Who cares if they're compensated? Many consumers are surprised when creators wake up one day and quit without any warning, but it's hard not to get disillusioned as a creator when your complaints about providing what is essentially free labor get treated as coming from a place of greed or selfishness. AI could make this worse, precisely because it provides free artwork. If all people have to do to get a nice picture for their wall, or even one day a whole book, is type in a prompt, then where's their incentive to pay artists? I'd like to think there will always be people who value creativity and human-made art, but whether or not there will be enough of such people to support artists and writers among them to the degree they deserve to be supported is debatable. We already have YouTubers quitting en masse because there's an expectation we work for free, and AI could lead to writers facing a similar problem. Art has value, though many people struggle to act as if it does, and AI could worsen what is already a problem. AI, at least as it relates to writers, is both a blessing and a curse. There are some who are thrilled with the invention, and there are those who are staunchly against everything and anything that's AI related. But I sit somewhere in the middle. On the one hand, I can recognize how AI might help writers, from the generation of cover art for lower income authors, to the ability to combat writer's block. AI can be a fun and supportive tool. On the other hand, AI, especially in the long run, could threaten writers. Screenwriters went on strike because of a lack of promises on the part of companies not to use AI in lieu of human labor. And the threat to writing itself, to books, to creativity, and the livelihoods of hundreds is very real. Technology has always been disruptive. And, as said before, a quick glance at the 1800s, which saw thousands of workers starving because of the machines which replaced them, shows us such concerns aren't new. Even the washing machine would have devastated people who kept their children fed by taking in spare washing, despite the love we have for them now. But it's harder to wrap our minds around artists being replaced. Anyone can do menial labor, and most of us won't mourn the loss of cashiers in the long run. Though I'd argue that cashiers have their own value as far as human interaction goes. But art represents meaning. Artists and writers allow us to not only understand human nature, but to change it where we recognize our faults. Art has power, and writing has value. But AI, if not used responsibly, could threaten all of that. Fights could break out between writers and cover designers, with whom we've always had a positive relationship, and livelihoods could be lost. I'm a writer, as well as someone who likes to draw for fun. I'm a creative who sunk hundreds of hours into creating without any promise of a return. I'm also someone who has used Canva's AI tools and been blown away. I've experimented with AI, seeing in it ways I could make my own life easier. All said, I can neither bring myself to love AI or hate it, because my feelings are so mixed. It's my opinion that AI is, like any tool, both good and bad. The internet brought us wonderful changes, but terrible ones too, because little was done to prepare us for it. And from AI, we face a similar dilemma. Now, all is not lost. AI hasn't replaced writers yet, which means there's still plenty of great books to be found. Humans are still needed to write stories that make us gasp, laugh, and cry. And if you'd like to hear which books I plan to read this coming year, click the video on the left. For my hot take on BookTube itself, click the video on the right. Thank you for watching, and happy reading!